So before we begin, I want to see a show of hands from the audience about where they are currently in their cloud journey. So for example, anybody who is just purely on-prem at this time, nothing in the cloud? Okay. And some hybrid? Okay. And fully in the cloud? Okay, that's good. Okay. So we have, I think, a good mix of audience here for hybrid as well as pure on-prem. So I think this will be a good starting point for your journey to the cloud. So before we begin, let me introduce myself. So my name is Humayun Khan. I've been in Microsoft for about 10 years, first 5 years in Skype or Office Communicator group, and the last 3-4 years I've been in the Azure group. And it feels good to be back at home because 10 years or 12 years ago, I actually landed at this O'Hare Airport to go to my grad school, 2 hours south of here, Purdue. So any Boilermakers here? Doesn't look like. Okay. Yeah, so yep, it's good to be back in the Midwest, although the weather is keeping me as I am in Seattle right now. But that's okay. Thanks for the nice weather here. So yeah, so this presentation is basically organized. First of all, there are no demos, no codes. So if you are expecting any demos or any code, I'm sorry, that will not be meeting your expectation. That being said, we will go over some real architectures about and the patterns that few of the customers have adopted over the years with working with different solution architect in Microsoft. Go over the stories at first, give you some customer background without revealing too much about it, and because some customers are very sensitive about their data, so we have to be, so all of this is blessed by them. And in the last half an hour, I'll go into the fundamentals of what it needs to do enterprise grade cloud. That being said, if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in the middle of the presentation. I love to have a more of interactive presentation because it helps to set the pace accordingly. Okay, so what is an architecture, or how do you architect? So this is a very fundamental question which has been changing along since we started in this industry, in the computer science industries. Think about architecting something back in the 1970s or 80s, and the same problem once given to a person in the 1990s or 2000, he will be architecting it very differently. Unlike some of the established field like medicine and others where the practices have been long-term practices, people have been working on it and there is a way to follow. That's not true in our industry. It's just changing very dramatically. And it's not like, especially me coming from Skype earlier, or Office Communicator, where everything was earlier thought about to be on-prem. Okay, let's do everything on-prem. Let's put everything in one server so that it's easily managed and everything. That is changing drastically as we move forward. Now we have to think about, okay, how do I scale up? How do I ensure that if I assign millions of users in my service, how do I ensure that I provide them the same service as we move along? So all these things are coming in into this picture. Another thing which is changing drastically is that your customers are changing. Previously, you might have partners, now they are becoming your, previously you might have customers, now they are becoming your partners. You previously have partners, now they are becoming your software vendors, and your software vendors are probably becoming your competition. It's all changing in that way that it's an interesting time to be in this area, so to keep witnessing all these changes that are coming in. So in this presentation, I said I'll first go over some customer stories about it, and that's what we'll start off. So think about, so this scenario is about a typical transportation company. Which has been developed organically over the years. You might have multiple databases for your order management, billing, and order tracking, and data warehousing. And they have been developed over time. Some might be using Oracle, some might be using SQL, some might be using something else. And now these are all, even inside big enterprises, I'm pretty sure most of you can relate to that. The data lives in silos. There is a silo of the databases that is specifically reserved for billing, and nobody else has access to that database. Only the billing people have access to that database. Then there is an order tracking system, which is its own silo. And the data warehouse for visualization is its own silo. But now, imagine if you are in this sort of an enterprise and somebody comes in and say, okay, let me try to look inside all these silos and develop some views and insights into the data that we have. What is the size of our billing? How much items are we billing here? How much items are currently in the pipeline which are in the tracking system? So this is one old way of architecting where your data was living in silos and everybody was looking inside those silos to provide a view out of it. Now this next one actually is exactly the same architecture, but exactly the same problem solving, but done in a different manner, where you have an ingress node where the data is coming in. So the beauty of this architect is that now you can scale up your ingress node without worrying about the size of the database. You can scale put more load balancers or put more worker roles. By the way, are you familiar with worker roles? Okay, so let me go over that a little bit. So worker role is basically a VM which does not have the IIS or the Internet IIS server running on it. It's just doing a task. It's not giving you any web front end. So any background task that you need to run is part of a worker role. So now imagine you have an ingress node. All it does, it receives data from multiple sources. In the previous example of the transportation company, it receives data from your devices. It receives data from your shipment. It receives all these data, and now depending on how much ingress you are having, you may start to scale up that independently. And then in the middle you have the stream analysis, which is doing nothing but doing a mathematical operation to move the data from various inputs to a standardized stream where you can analyze the data and do some analysis on top of it. And once that analysis is done, then you can give it to the multiple databases depending on their need. For example, you can give it to a data warehouse so that it can be viewed. You can give it to Power BI and generate some beautiful reports out of it, or you can give it to your billing department and generate real-time reports out of it. So all these things are there in the system right now, and now it's up to you to see whether you want to develop all these individual systems or you want to focus on the end-to-end picture. So I'm pretty sure all of us are engineers or have an engineering background, and think about a Lego block. So it's up to you whether you take the plastic out of the Lego blocks, make some colors into it, and make a Lego block of 6 blocks, 8 blocks, or 20 blocks. You can spend your time on it, and that's exactly is some of the people are spending time on it. Or you can use those existing Lego blocks which are already there and make this whole car. Both are very interesting problems, but it's up to you to find out which problem is you are trying to solve. Both of them will use your engineering skills, so it's not like I'm more technical while I'm doing a smaller block, while I'm not technical while making a big car. No, both of them have their own technical problems. It's up to you where you are spending your time on. So in the next one, I'll go over one. So it's all about basically a scenario that you are trying to solve. It's not about, hey, by solving this problem, am I going to become the most technically superior person in the world? No, you are solving a problem because there is a customer need and somebody is asking for that problem to be solved. So within Microsoft, we get these different questions, and different companies approach our solution architect for a solution. So here there is an example of a financial services company in Western Europe who approached us, and they said, okay, I have some files that I have to keep. So this is basically a financial services company, which basically is a call center. They call out to the customers, get their insight about, for example, a credit card or a banking company, and then they find out that, okay, and they record this. It's just like you call this Bank of America or any other bank, and you make a call, and this audio call is recorded for you. Similarly here as well, they have all this recording available, which were not using it at all. The recording was stored because of requirements or the regulatory requirements that they had. But nobody was doing anything with that recording. They just kept it there in some storage, and then they were removed after 10 years or 20 years, depending on the compliance requirements. So now a solution, an architect there in that group found out that, okay, I have these recordings, what can I do with these recordings? And again, think about it, most of them, when we talk about cloud, we always talk about, hey, let's use infrastructure as a service and deploy 20 VMs and migrate everything to the cloud. This has nothing to do with that. It is just a smaller subset where you have something lying around and you want to use it and prove something or get insights into that data. That's where cloud actually becomes very helpful. Yes, sure, go fully on the cloud once you need to, but you don't need to go full on the cloud just to begin your journey. To begin your journey, look at the opportunities you have in your enterprise already and see what you can do with that. So again, so that architect came to Microsoft and said, I have these recordings available. What can I do with these recordings? So we said, okay, let's see what we can do. So Microsoft or the cloud has all these building blocks available. So Microsoft has this language sentiment analysis engine called LUIS available. So we said, okay, let's see what we can do and use LUIS for this recordings that you already have. So this is about 3-4 years old solution. I would not have architected it this way now, but the 3-4 years old solution at that time, LUIS was only doing analysis based out of text, not based out of voice. So as a result, first you need the very first worker role that you see here is actually, okay, maybe it's not working here. Okay, anyways, the very first worker role you are seeing here is basically doing nothing but converting the audio files to a text file. And then you pass it through an indexer so that they can be searched they can be put into an index search. And then that text file was given to the LUIS engine through the REST APIs, which are public APIs. Anybody can use it. And with that, the sentiment analysis came out, which basically grades the text from 0 to 1 to say that 1 mean that text is from a very extremely happy customer, 0 mean that text is from a extremely angry customer. And now the question comes out is that, okay, well, why don't I develop my own language analysis system? Well, the problem is the language analysis system needs to be trained. You want to spend your energy on training that system? Sure, then please work somewhere in the team which is developing this language analysis system. Or you want to just use this in a system which is already available and use it for your benefit. So this architect said, okay, let me just use it. And then again, this language system will change depending on the language. Spanish people would have a different, same text or same text spoken by a Spanish person would mean something different, while in Chinese it means something different and so all this training of this tool need to be done. Who will do that training? Either you will spend your time on it or you let people who are experts in that and just use it, because your job is not to train that engine. Your job is to use the inference from that engine and use it for your business benefits. So then this architect then trained it through that system, passed it through that system and got the index out, whether it's 1 or 0 or between 0 and 1 a number. And then he put that with the, and then on the top half is nothing but we just put that text as it is so that it can be used later on for search. And the lower half, whatever output came out of the LUIS engine, it was fed to a Power BI dashboard, and I'll show you that Power BI dashboard in the next slide. So here is what the data revealed to that customer, data revealed to that customer was that, okay, first of all, it provided them a real-time analysis. As soon as the audio file comes in, you can go through this engine and find out whether this is from a happy customer or from a not happy customer. And you can also look at in which context the user was calling about. Was he calling in regards to a credit card or a bank or a ATM card, or was he calling regarding transferring money from from one account to another account? What was his action he was doing? He was canceling it. So does canceling there meant in a good mood or in a happy, was he happy canceling it or was he angry canceling it? So all this analysis was done, and he could then find out that, okay, what were the keywords the user was using? He was calling about bank, and then for each of these keywords, what was the sentiment from that user? And the lastly but not least, you can actually go into the conversation history and then find out, okay, this user, he made calls, last 3 or 4 calls, he was not happy with that customer, or he was not happy with the the service he received. So is he very likely to leave the bank? Is he very likely to leave my financial system? If so, what can I do to incentivize it? So that financial services company used this data to ensure that the amount of churn that the user are having because of the bad interaction is reduced. And again, if you look at this example, you don't need to migrate, you don't need to change any of your existing system. All you're doing is you're using the cloud to do a proof of concept or to do a quick solution and then drive value out of it. It's not like in order to implement the system, you need to migrate fully to the cloud. So that is, I think, I want to make sure that that point is clear here, that cloud migration, yes, you'll probably have seen presentation about infrastructure as a service and all other that my other colleagues have talked about. That is one aspect of it. Here is like, okay, let's start the journey. Let's begin the journey. Start with one thing, do the analysis, and see how we can solve a problem that we have, and then go to the next problem, go to the next problem. Solve your problems quickly and gain knowledge by looking at the existing blocks that we already have rather than trying to invent a new block. And I can assure you, a lot of these building blocks are already there. The cloud has been ready for these sort of analysis for a long time. Unfortunately, it was not easily discoverable or not fully up to the business grade level. Now it is becoming ready and people should start using it. And every company like Microsoft and others, they have their solution architects available for you to reach out. And the tech community that we have will help you out in your cloud journey. You're all good here? Okay. So next is another customer analysis from an online travel agency. This was an interesting customer. So what he did was that he said, okay, I make online reservation for some customers based on their requirements. And then once the reservation is done, everything is done, we actually send them a link or sometime make a phone call to them to find out, to get a customer survey form filled. Some of people fill, some of people don't fill the form. What do we do with that now? So we have the data there, and we can look at that data independently. We can look at the phone calls independently, and we can look at the online survey that they have filled independently. So what do we do with this data? Now we have all this data available. Unfortunately, we don't have the insight from other social channels like Google+, Facebook, or or Twitter. So now the question becomes, like, what are you interested in? Are you interested in that specific user who made a booking through your tool and then he traveled to, say, Atlanta, and then you want to look at his Facebook profile and get insights from it? Was he happy there or not? Or are you looking at any user who made a booking through my tool and traveled to Atlanta? Or are you looking at the social feed of anyone in Atlanta? So this question becomes very important to find out that what are you trying to do. So make sure you ask these questions, because depending on these questions, you might need to get different level of privacy and other things. So you need to make sure that you ask these questions up front. And it's the question which is more important rather than the solution there, because the solutions are already out there. How to get Facebook feed, how to get these feeds, they are already out there. More important thing is, what are you trying to ask? So in this case, the customer actually then went ahead and combined all these social feeds together and then pass it through the Azure machine learning tool, which basically again gave the sentiment analysis out and presented in a Power BI dashboard. Now again, machine learning, awesome things to do, very good research is going on. Are you going to spend your time on that? No, you should want to use those existing solutions. Unless you are specializing in machine learning, then probably work for some machine learning team rather than the enterprises. And people we need folks in that field as well. This is another customer, and again, I'm trying to hide the real customer's name and more details as we were not allowed to, so let's just keep it at a higher level in that way. So this one is a customer who had I can just say that this is a European customer who had a shipping company which transferred goods via land, sea, and train. Yeah. So they had this shipment that they have the data, real-time data about where the shipments are how many shipments are going by train, how many shipments are going by by trucks, and how many are going by a ship. So they said, okay, I have all this data available, but here is one thing that I am having trouble with, which is that if something goes wrong in my shipment, or in the area, for example, the weather is bad or there is some protest happening, how do I read out? One option is that every driver in the world or every shipment wherever which vessel it is carrying, the person who are responsible for those vessels, they know what's happening in the rest of the world, and then they can read out accordingly, but that will become a chaos. You can't expect everybody to know everything. Those guys need to know, okay, I need to go from point A to point B, which route should I take for this shipment? And that's where it becomes more important, is that not everybody need to know everything, but if in the back end you know all these things and it can do all this analysis for you, then all you need to do is you need to tell to the person who is responsible for this shipment to say, okay, given that there is a protest going on in a port and the port is closed, let's use train to transfer this good, rather than go with the older route. So that customer did that analysis, and all he ended up doing was that, okay, let's use all these insights from the shipments, from the weather, and from the other news sites, all these social feeds which are available, and find out what's the best route to transfer this good. And if I need to change that good, that transfer, then send an alert to the mobile device of the operator, so that operator knows that, okay, you need to take this shipment from point A to point B, and at point B, give it to a port and send it out on that way. Or the port is closed, so please go to port C. This is another, I think this probably will be the last example I would go with the customer's analysis, which is basically based on a health service provider in US. And as you know, they probably are aware of the HIPAA compliancy. Does everybody know about HIPAA? Okay, yeah. So basically, to make it short, HIPAA is, well, you are never compliant with HIPAA, and you need to prove otherwise. In other words, any action you take might result in removing your HIPAA compliancy in that way that your certification will get lost or everything. So you have to be very careful. It's just like you are not uncompliant at this time. In other words, you have not done anything bad to be uncompliant. So you have to be very careful about these what I call the certifications and other things, where any action you take might result in making you uncompliant. So in HIPAA compliance, the basic requirement is that the data of a customer, in this case the health data, cannot transfer over the wire unencrypted. It cannot be stored unencrypted. So in other words, from the moment the data leaves from a user desktop or user mobile device, it is transferred over to the cloud in an encrypted manner, and then it is stored in the cloud in an encrypted manner. The user can retrieve the data, and then it gets decrypted back on the user device. So now, in this case, this is a very simpler problem where we said, okay, in order to transfer the data from customer sites to the cloud, we must be using express route, because that's the only way of providing encrypted pipeline across the board. Okay, the data get transferred over express route to the cloud. Now the customer who wants to do a search on it, his metadata also get transferred over the same path as well. And then you can do the search on the encrypted data as well. So as a result, you don't need to unencrypt the data to do the search, which you probably would have to do otherwise. So in all these examples, what you are seeing is that the backend already has the support for it. All you need to do is connect it to the backend. There are other customer stories from Carnegie Mellon, UBS, Virginia, which you can read online, and those are available. I think I would like to call out here one specific story about Real Madrid, where they did the the fans analysis, the fan sentiment analysis, the similar way as we did. And they actually found out that what are the actions they take in the game that results in people or their fans becoming unhappy. And then they did some interesting things on that. So there's an interesting video there in that link. So I think these decks will be available later on, so you guys can go and see. Okay, how are we doing? Okay. So now I'll do a context switch to fundamentals, where in order to develop a line of business app, what are the main things that you need to worry about, and what are the ways you can worry about, you can work on it. And each of these topic by itself is a 1-hour session. I'll probably will be, I think, giving one session later on in the day on one of the subtopics here. But each of these topics, we need to think about it as we are developing enterprise-grade cloud or developing your line of business app. Networking, it's, I think, the most hard problem to solve, in a way that all these other problems that we see below in the list, there are almost standard solutions available. But networking is something where each customer has their own, we have found out is that has their own requirements, and it becomes very complicated as we start looking into it. One thing that I didn't call out is the DevOps here in this one, which probably is something that should be called out. I'm not going into the operational side, it's more about setting up of the environment. So networking, so as I recall, most of you are either purely on-prem or have a hybrid app already approach. So you already have your corporate cloud, where you have your corporate sites there. You might have some remote sites there. All of these sites are interconnected through your private WAN. And then you have your multiple ways to reach out to the cloud. One way is ExpressRoute. Are you guys familiar with ExpressRoute? Yeah. This is, I said, this is not the only way, but depending on the requirements and other things, you might be exploring ExpressRoute already. And we have certain partners in certain areas. I'm pretty sure there's a list of partners in this area as well, which you can reach out to, who provides ExpressRoute service to the Microsoft Cloud. And with these ExpressRoute, you can either connect to the software as a service like Office 365 or Skype, or you can have your own VMs, and you have set up your own VMs and your own group policies to access your own machines. By the way, don't get confused with Azure Public and Azure Private. It's not that there are two different Azures here. It's just like one part of the VMs are something that you are reserving for public use, where you are hosting your own websites. Another one is for your internal enterprise use. So that's why the public and private are called out. Private are more within your enterprise, where only people who have access within your enterprise will access it, while public is more like you're hosting a website, for example. And the other thing was that obviously don't forget about the VPN connectivity. That is obviously always in the play here as well, because some people might be accessing it from remote sites and other locations that are not on the main corporate backbone. So those people can access via the VPN. Now, how do you establish all these VPN connections is something definitely where people will be spending a lot more time thinking about it, and you have to be very careful about, like, what are your requirements? Do you need ExpressRoute? Does your enterprise require it because of compliance reasons or not, or the other reasons? So think about those things very carefully. This is, I think, the most important question that comes out of this one is, what do you need from in the networking side? Other thing was that I am deliberately moving around so when you're in the cloud, your back end is the customer side. So front end is the cloud and the back end is that way. But you might be thinking the reverse way, where my back end is the cloud. So it's just a terminology difference. We have to be very cognizant about it, that if you are using back end, what does back end mean? And obviously, with networking, security always comes hand in hand, and that's what I will be talking more about. So all these access management and other things are based on a role-based authentication, which is provided by Azure AD. Azure Active Directory is probably I think the biggest asset we have, which is almost have the 90% of Active Directory content in it, and it has partnerships with all these other clouds as well, like Salesforce or Google Cloud. So one option is that you can set up your enterprise Active Directory to have these relationship with all these other providers, or you can use Azure to do that relationship for you. So I think that probably is what the main point called out here, is that you don't need to bring that complexity all the way back to your on-prem. You can use Azure AD, do an encrypted sync, and then use Azure AD to connect to the rest of the clouds, rather than bringing all these complexities to your backend and then managing it. Azure AD already manages for you. Other thing is the user-driven identity. For example, a finance guy and a HR person in an enterprise. The finance guy will be able to access the finance data, but the HR person should not be able to access the HR data. The HR person should not be able to access the finance data. So all these role-based authentication, where this user is allowed to do this thing, either he's allowed, or you probably will throw in a multi-factor auth, or you block that user. I mean, depends on your scenarios. So all these are available in the RBACs that is provided by Azure. So the idea there is that, for example, if a user is signing in from, say, Australia, and 2 hours later the same user signs in from, say, London, well, that probably is not the same user. Then at that time you can either block the user, or you can throw in a multi-factor auth to say that, okay, you claim that you are this person, prove it otherwise through some other mechanism, either by your company card or some other authentication by sending in text to that user. All those authentications are supported in the Azure cloud. So again, it's up to you. You can implement all those things in your on-prem, which will probably take a lot of your time, or use the cloud for it. And again, all this data that is coming out from the authentication is then later on made available to you in a portal, where you can see it, okay, this user, how many users tried to log in, how many users were blocked, how many users were thrown at a multi-factor auth, and you can then adjust your policies accordingly. Next one is the subscription management. So this is an interesting area where, so for example, now you went inside the cloud and you created multiple subscriptions for it, so for your users. Now you can do the subscription management of those users, where you can say that, okay, these users are allowed to get a VM, these users are not allowed to get a VM. Or these users are allowed to make a container, these users are not allowed to make a container. All these things are possible. These users are allowed to have a dev account, these users are allowed to have a test account, these users are allowed to access the machine. All these things are available, and you as an owner can set up these policies. And there's a standard template that comes in, but you want to set up your own policies, you can set it up as well. You can do it at a per user level, per application level, you can do it at per device level, like the machines need to be domain joined or not. All those things can be done, and it's up to you how you want to manage it. And again, you can either do it manually, or there are already APIs available which you can do it programmatically. So it's up to you to figure it out, what is the right action you guys want to take here. Any questions so far? Is it too fast, too slow? Okay. Automation. So this is, let's say if I ask you to create one VM, you probably will go to Azure portal and go ahead and create the VM. Are you guys familiar with Azure portal? I assume that is yes. Okay. So, but if you ask you to create hundreds of VMs or 200 VMs, you probably will get tired by clicking through the portal UI. You probably would like to do it through some automation. And we have automations available at various levels. You can either use a scripting language like PowerShell. And again, I'm really not accurate. PowerShell is more than a scripting language, but just for this conversation, I want to keep it at a scripting language part only. It does more than that, but that's not the point here. Or you can use the Azure ARM template and use the APIs of Azure ARM to set it up. Or you can use the orchestration as a service. So all these three are available. It depends on what you are feeling more comfortable with, what is the right details you want to go in. You don't need all three of them. You might be good with only one of them. So it's up to you how you want to go through that. billing, and cost management. This is an interesting topic where it very much changes based on the enterprises. Some enterprises wants to go too much microcontrolling the billing, some don't. It's totally flexibility is there in the cloud for you to find out where you want to go and where you want to spend your time. Again, you can do all these things upfront in your enterprise environment and say, okay, this user will not be allowed to do 20 things or all those things. So you can put all in your AD and then work on this, or use Azure backend to do all these things for you. And again, both are possible, but more important thing is where are you spending your time? Are you spending your time in providing value add to your to your customers, which is your enterprise users, or you are spending time in learning these basic skills, which will not help your customer to give a quick solution out. There's a level 0 portal which is available for you to use on the in the Power BI. Almost nobody uses it because that is very high level. It does not give you the insight, and that's why we did the second solution where you can get that connection to that SQL database, and then you can generate your own Power BI views out of it. This probably is the most common one. It's freely available to all the customers of Azure, and then you can generate your own Power BI views, and then you can go into how much details you want to have. You want to go to per VM level, per user level detail, or you want to take it at a higher level and say, all I need to know is what is the overall, how much types of VM1 my users are getting versus VM2 or VM3. It's up to you how much details you want to go in. And given that there was not a one-size-fit-all solution, we decided that, okay, let's give you the access to the SQL database and you guys can do what you want to do. And obviously there are some third-party partners available which are doing a lot more details, and they are offering their own products as well. You can check with them as well about this. Excuse me. Next one is on the hybrid. So I've heard a lot of you are working on the hybrid area as well. So Microsoft Operation Management Suite is a product that I would like. Again, all these topics by itself is a 1 hour topic, and I'm pretty sure a lot of these topics are already covered in the other session. This is just an overview so that you can find out, okay, where can I start? So Microsoft Operation Management Suite is a suite available which basically connects you to various clouds. You can connect to Azure or AWS cloud. You can connect to your on-prem, or you can connect to any private cloud hosted by some other partner as well. And then Microsoft Management Suite will provide you a single interface across all these environments, and then you can monitor your machines, how many machines are up to date, how many machines have patched up, how many machines are running, and this is just a snapshot of that, which shows you that if there was a malware detected on one of the machines, you can find out how many machines were requiring malware, how many machines were going up in the security audit, how many are backed up, how many are not backed up. So all this data is available in that one suite that you can use. Okay, I'll skip that one. Detect, and so this is, so now not only that, if you want to go inside your individual applications that the users are using, you can actually go inside that as well, and then you can get more analysis of it, like how many people within my enterprises are using Office apps, how many are using this app, that app. Then you can find out that, okay, are we spending the right amount of money on these apps that we have purchased the license for? Are my people even using it or not? All these insights are available through this Microsoft Operation Management Suite, and you can go inside and find out what you need to do. Yeah, backup and recoveries. I think this is an interesting area where we actually found this to be one of the primary help that our customers are getting for their cloud migration. So for example, you have a data center or a small, your own private data center, and now you want to do a backup of it. You can do a backup of it and then store it in Azure. But then the interesting thing comes out is recovery. So you can either recover from your backed up data from one data center to another data center, or you can do data center to the cloud as well. So in other words, what you can do is that you can take a backup of your enterprise right now, which is like a snapshot, and then you recover it in the cloud. So as a result, that's the easiest way of doing a cloud migration for you. So which is that you take a backup here locally of your enterprise data and then recover it later on in the cloud. So that is, we found that a lot of the people are using that for their cloud migration. It's a very quick solution and it's fully supported. We can even do cloud to cloud as well. When I say cloud to cloud, it means that you want to move from Azure from say East US data center to West US data center. That is done. We don't currently support Amazon to Azure recovery. So if you are in that way, probably that solution will come sometime later on. Okay. So again, and there are certain partners also available who are working on this effort. So you can all either reach out to them or reach out to Microsoft. So both are possible options. Security and compliance. I think this is one of my favorite topic here, which is like over the last 10 years in Microsoft, I think I have found Microsoft to be so much passionate about security and compliance that it is mind-blowing. So this is one area where Microsoft has been working on for a very long time to get compliance and certification from various organizations, because these helps a lot, because not only you get a check mark to operate in those enterprises which requires these compliances, but actually it helps you to improve your own systems as well. And this is what we found out was that by developing software for compliancy reasons, we also found out that it actually is helping us as well to make more software more secure. And as a result, the effort has been along that every year new and new certifications are coming in, and I'm pretty sure I don't have the full list of all the certifications here, but I can see that that is very likely not going to stay away. Microsoft is fully committed in this area, and you will see us making more and more effort to get more compliance and any other. If you are aware of any compliance that Microsoft does not have and you require it for your enterprise, reach out to us, and we will make all the efforts to go through those that compliance journey with you. A lot of these compliance were done in collaboration with a partner, because somebody reached out to us that, okay, I cannot go to the Microsoft Cloud till you are, say, certified by Singapore, MCTS, whatever that organization compliance requirement was. Well, okay, let's work on it together. And sometimes it's very easy, sometimes it's hard, but Microsoft, as our commitment to security and compliance, it's dedicated on ensuring that it helps you in reaching your compliance requirements. So if you have any compliance requirements, please reach out to us. I'll have some resources at the end as well, which we will talk about it. This is like a list of the compliance. Again, I just checked online this morning today, and I should have changed the screenshot. There are more companies of compliance there that are there, and I just didn't have time to take that latest screenshot. It was not fitting in that slide. So Azure Security Center, I guess there was a session on it. I don't know whether you guys attended it or not. Did anybody attend that session? Oh, you attended it? Okay, great. So, I mean, this is not in any way covering the breadth of the tools that are offered there, but it is just introduction. Again, this whole breakout session is on getting to let you know the smaller pieces, and then you can then find out which piece interests you, and then you go dig deeper into it. So Azure Security Center is a continuous monitoring going on within Azure. So imagine if you have hosted your VMs on Azure, there is a constant task which is running. All it is doing is it is ensuring where are we currently in the compliance, is how many machines were attacked in the last X number of hours, what actions were taken, how many machines malware were detected. So all these is like a continuous loop running, going on, and it gives you a dashboard to see, okay, what happened in Azure in general? Was there an attack somewhere in Dublin data center or not? Were your machines impacted by that or not? So you can go and dig deep inside it. And for example, it gives you, for example, how many virtual machines you have and what was the status of these virtual machines, and you can see what it also tells you the recommendations as well, what you should be doing to make sure that you don't end up in a unsecure environment. You should be enabling anti-malware protection, for example, and you should be using secure web apps, using some mechanism, and all you do is once you click on it, it will actually guide you to the action as well, and you can just take over it. Now again, the uber point here is that you can spend all of your energy and resources in developing all these things on your own, which will take away the main objective that you have. Or you can use the existing solutions available, and for looking at the existing solution available, all you need to do is look out and reach out to the community and find out, okay, here is a problem I'm trying to solve. Does anybody else have solved this problem? And I'm pretty sure the answer you will get is a yes, and then somebody will guide you through that process. One thing that has been changed over the last 4 or 5 years in Microsoft is the emphasis on open source and other things. So a lot of these things in Azure and others are open source. You can actually even look at the source code as well, and then find out if you need to change something, you can go ahead and change that. Now it's up to you. You want to spend your time doing all those minor updates, or you want to spend your time in adding customer value by doing real scenarios for your end users. And that, I think, is the uber point of this whole deck, is that it's not your engineering skills which are going to be used when you are going to solve a technical problem. It is your time which is going to be used. Where are you spending your time? Are you spending your time in, say, compiling the kernel, or are you spending your time in making an app that is used by your user? Or are you spending time in training a language analysis engine, or are you just using that language analysis engine for your purpose? So think about where you want to spend your time, and if you have a question, anything, raise your hand, ask the community. You will find answers there, because somebody would have already solved this problem for you. Okay, and I think these are the resources available. And again, we are here to help in a way that you need to plan your careers and other things. You have all these resources available on Microsoft IT Pro's website. You probably have seen these everywhere, other places as well. And Tech Community is a great resource. I'm pretty sure you probably have seen this slide somewhere else as well. Join that forum, ask questions, and somebody will be reaching out to you if you have any questions on that. We'll want to make your cloud journey easy, the migration from your on-prem to cloud, or from cloud to cloud, very easy. And again, don't think about cloud as, hey, I need to install 20 VMs or 30 VMs and start doing that. No, you can solve by looking at some easier problem first. Take the first baby step. Go through the language analysis tools, or go through the other tools that you think you can use to bring value to your enterprise, rather than, hey, let's take a big jump, throw away everything and start fresh. No, that's never going to happen. You need to start smaller journey. Look at the current offering of the cloud, what is currently offering, and see how you can use those offerings to solve your problem. Whether it's a data analysis problem, big data problem, AI problem, the cloud is there to help you. In fact, the cloud has been there to help for the last 4 or 5 years. Unfortunately, the tools that were available or the information was not that much democratized. And our purpose is to make sure that information is available to everybody, so that they can start their cloud journey. And again, if you reach out to us through the community forums, tech community, we will be answering your questions and helping you out there. Okay. Any questions? Okay. All right, thanks a lot.